Hey, this is Michael. I have a story to share with you, an ancestor story, and I invite you to notice in your witnessing what resonates for you, what evokes in you, what associations. This is like a collective dream, is how I share this story. In a ceremonial way, when we share our stories, ritual way, and we really pay attention to each other, our own ancestors are evoked by the stories we share, whether it be lands, cultures, heritage, occupations, villages, grandparents, great-grandparents, legends. So I invite you to notice in your listening, and please share comments in the comment thread. Thank you. I call this Stella's choice. It is said in the Hebrew tradition, Gam Zelatova, also this is for the good. Sometimes this is difficult to fathom. Faith and hope are broken when trauma occurs in the fragmentation of the brain. It's hard to see when we plunge into the depths of shame or guilt, anguish, despair, or when we activate into our survival mechanisms of fight and flight and freeze and frantic and fawn. It's hard to recognize the good, the silver linings. So the story has silver linings. I had a dream once of a goat. And in this dream, when I would pet the goat, I could heal forwards and backwards in time. And I believe this is true. When we access these ancestor stories, our cultural lineage, our generational lineage, we actually can find that we can heal backwards in time, remembering and honoring and thanking our ancestors. The most important portal to accessing our ancestors is gratitude. Remembering with gratitude and honoring. As we honor them and we serve them, they serve us also. As we revive them, we feel more revived. As we bring the context of our backgrounds to our awareness and out to each other in sharing in collective ceremonial councils of sharing these stories, we expand and thrive. We heal up, we clean up old trauma, we find the gems and the treasures and the blessings that give us our resourcefulness and our resilience. So, the goat. You see, I was born out of the ashes of the Shoah, what we call the Holocaust. I have genocided my body, and I have all of my ancestors. We have all of our ancestors in our faces and our hands and our hearts and our cheeks and our feet. We dance their dance. We dance our dance with them. That's how I see. My grandmother Stella, she lives in my cheeks. I would visit her. She's the only grandparent that survived. She remarried my Uncle Joe, my bonus grandfather, came to America with my mother after hiding in Warsaw in broad daylight outside of the Warsaw Ghetto. My mother, 4, 5, 6 years old, saved by a Polish man who took them in, and his daughter, Hanka, Adam Jacques and Hanka, who pretended to be my mother's sister. But before that, after that, the current childhood memories I have of her, she would put me on her lap and she would pet my cheeks and she would call me monkey and feed me bananas while we watched the Ed Sullivan Show on Sunday nights in Cleveland, Ohio, where they'd settled after the war. She broke down after the war, whatever she had experienced. Ed Sullivan and the Wonderful World of Disney was my remembrance of her, is my remembrance of her in my personal hearing of her voice and seeing of her face. Stella's choice. Mom was 4 years old. The Nazis had come in, the Blitzkrieg, called the Anschluss, the onslaught, had taken over Kalisz, their urban home. And they were taken away. My grandfather, Yosef, put my mother on his shoulders, and they were taken to a ghetto called Rzeszów and ghettoized there. It was a very, very difficult ghetto experience, of course, for all the reasons. And my grandmother learned that there would be a liquidation of the ghetto the next day. She was resourceful. She would go in and out of that ghetto. And when she learned of that, she put jewels and money in my grandmother's jacket and led her under the fence to a Polish woman who, when my mother screamed and cried so vociferously, hysterically, she took the money and the jewels and pushed her back under the fence, where my mother ran back into their home, into her father Yosef's arms. He said, "Rosa," and hugged her, and that's the last memory she has of her father. Her mother, Grandma Stella, Sabina, comes in, turns white, realizing her daughter was in danger. And they made a choice that day for grandfather Yosef to stay in the ghetto, and for my mother and grandmother to flee and escape to Warsaw. Gamzela Tova? Gamzela Tova. Stella had a choice, and we have a choice. What choice would you make in that situation? She had to leave her sisters and her nieces and her husband behind to save the life of her daughter. I would not be here. My son would not be here. My brother and his children would not be here. The great-granddaughter and great-great-granddaughter, great-granddaughters and great-great-granddaughters of Stella live from her sacrifice. So I thank her. Grandma Stella, I felt like I had to go into the spirit world to revive her. She had electroshock therapy in the 60s when I was young, and was on the wrong medications and died young. She was kind of hollowed. She didn't revive. Esther Perel says there were survivors and revivers, and many Holocaust survivors. I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, with hundreds of, thousands of next generations of survivors. They're called greener. Grass is greener. And what would you do in that kind of situation? You would do what you needed to save your children. And that's what she did. And so I found her. I've found her in the spirit world, and I've to thank her and praise her and give her gratitude and give her blessings and send her love and let her know that we're well and we're thriving. And I feel like she's revived, whether that's her actual spirit, whether that's my imagination, whether that's her and me. And I share the story with you, my family, my friends, colleagues, people that have never met me, clients, community. And I ask what touches in you in this story, what ripples as I drop this stone into the lake. What do you notice? What evokes in you? Please share in the comments. Thank you for listening. Appreciate your attention. There's so much that pulls for our attention, and I hope that your attention has prospered and found some goodness in the story. Blessings.